All right, and hello and welcome to Party of Two Cruising. I'm Patrick, and today we're going to talk about something from the past. When we started cruising back in 2004, were things different on Carnival Cruise Lines? Did they take away stuff? Did they add stuff? Are things ran the same? And we're talking about excluding all the pandemic rules. Just what has changed since then? We'll be right back. All right, let's get started. And I'm going to save the best one for last because I see this controversy all over social media. They did have it, they didn't have it. And we'll talk about it here in just a few minutes. All right. All right, so the first thing you always had to do was find a cruise that you wanted to go on. Well, back in 2004, the internet wasn't as prominent that it is now. So you kind of had to get your books from a travel agent or the cruise line and actually go through a catalog, basically. It was called the brochure, but it was a catalog that had all their ships, which back in 2004, they didn't have as many as they do now. And it would show each ship, their deck plans, as you see here. And you basically had to call a travel agent to book your cruise. You couldn't just get online and do it yourself back then. That was unheard of. Remember, our cell phones didn't even have the internet on them. They had phone calls, and that was it. All right, so then after you booked your cruise, you walked away with really nothing. Nothing. You could still make your payments, but you had to go through your travel agents. For example, we used Dillard's Travel back then, and you walked away again from there with nothing in your hand. But then, about 2 weeks before your cruise, your boarding passes, your contract, would show up in a little blue envelope in your mailbox. So that was always an exciting day. We're going on a cruise. And that's how they did things back then. Wasn't nearly like it is today, where you can do it yourself through a travel agent, through your PVP, all that different stuff. So that's one thing that's definitely changed. All right, so you packed your bags, you headed out that day, you got to the port, got to the terminal, and it was pretty much easy peasy. Back then, we showed our birth certificates. That was the biggest way to cruise back then. Now everything needs to be a passport. And you'd fill out a little questionnaire, and you basically, you were done. They'd take your picture for your sail and sign card, and all you did was sit in the terminal and wait to board the ship. All right, so then we boarded the ship. We went to our rooms, and were they different? No, some of the rooms still look identical that they did back then. All right, but what are some of the things that were in that room that were different than they are today? Well, first things is they didn't ask you if you wanted morning service to clean your room or evening service to clean your room. You basically got both. They'd come in the morning, and then they'd come again when they knew you were at dinner, and they would do your turn down service at night. Now, when you came back to the room, you'd find this on your bed. You'd get you some mints. You'd get, back then it was called the Carnival Caper. And you'd get all the brochures for your next stop in the morning. For example, that cruise was, our first stop was in Nassau, and you'd see all your Diamonds International, all the sale papers. They'd load your bed up with them. And they'd all be waiting on the bed when you got back from your dinner. Right, now, one thing I want you to do is I want you to look up there at that TV up there. Yeah, that was all the old tube types TVs. Can you imagine how much weight they saved when they got rid of all those TVs out of all those cabins? Those things were big. They were heavy. Them putting them on the walls now is the best thing ever because it also gave you more room in the rooms now. All right, so another thing about your rooms back then was everybody, you didn't have to ask for them. Your bathrobes were already in your room. Everybody had bathrobes. And people used to wear them all over the ship. People would come out to the pool with them on. You'd see people walking around late at night going to get a snack. And, yeah, everybody had a bathrobe. Now you got to ask for them. You can still get them, but you got to ask for them. All right, sticking with our cabin, how about room service? Back then, room service was totally free, 24/7, free. And you could order it as many times as you wanted. I think we've ordered room service, once since we've been cruising. And it was our first cruise. But that's big time change there. Now it's an upcharge. Now there's a fee for most of the stuff you order. All right, while we're on the subject of food, let's talk about our dining options back in 2004. They were limited. Let's start out in the morning for breakfast. The breakfast you could get was either A, in the main dining room, or B, in the buffet, or you could actually just go get pizza if you like eating pizza for breakfast. That was it. There was no Blue Iguana Cantina to get you that breakfast burrito. There were just limited options back then, but we still enjoyed it. For lunch, you could go to, again, the main dining room, again, the buffet, pizza, but now the deli opens, and you can also get hamburgers and hot dogs depending on what ship you were on, out by the pool or sometimes on the very back of the ship. You could get your hamburgers and your hot dogs. That was pretty much it for lunch. And you were kind of limited. Now for dinner you had technically 2 times that you could eat dinner. It's not like it is now where you have the anytime. You had either 6 p.m. dinner, 8:15 p.m. dinner in the main dining rooms. You could go to the buffet. You could make specialty restaurants on certain ships. Now, the Glory was our first cruise, and that had a steakhouse on it. But again, it was I believe back then it was only like a $25 upcharge. That was a lot of money to us back in 2004. But we did do it once, I think. And you could still get, usually up until later in the evening, you could get hamburgers and hot dogs. And that was your choices. And that was it. Now, once in a while, they'd have not every day, but other days they'd have sushi down on the Lido deck, which it was free. And they'd give you 3 or 4 pieces, but you could go back as many times as you wanted. And after they looked funny at me, after about the 4th or 5th time, I quit going. But so anyway, so that was it on that. And then, but way back then, differently, they would have the midnight buffet. Yes, midnight buffets, food everywhere, all over the Lido deck is where they would do that, out by the pool. And you could eat as much as you want out there. The problem was they were throwing away more food than people were eating because people that had late dinner were not hungry. And some people were still in the casino and in the shows. And they always sculpted watermelons into different shapes and sizes and all that kind of stuff. And it was pretty cool, but I think then they realized through the years that it was just a waste of food. And then they started doing the chocolate buffet one time during your cruise. And that slowly went away as well. Now they just do that. They still do it, but they still do it just in the buffet on a certain day. They have the chocolate extravaganza. So now, talking about dining on formal night, not like it is today. You couldn't go in the dining room on formal night with a pair of shorts on or a t-shirt or flip-flops. Pretty much everybody that went to dinner on formal nights, and on a 7-day cruise, it was the same as it is now. There were 2 formal nights, and everybody pretty much wore a suit. It's not really like that anymore. So maybe a suggestion is they ought to make one person that wants to go to formal night in one dining room and then put the other people that don't want to do a formal night in the other dining room. But genius. Just kidding. All right, so what about entertainment? Has that really changed over the years? Actually, it has. All the ships that we went on, and the Glory being the first one we went on, they used to actually, during the shows, they had actually a live band that played the music. The band would actually be down in a pit in front of the stage, and that they could either raise it or lower it, and they actually played their own music back then. And then slowly but surely throughout the years, they've done away with that, and they go to basically already played, recorded music, as they've done on the Mardi Gras, which they can use any backdrop they want now, which makes it really, really awesome. But the entertainment out at the pool during the day, believe it or not, are the same games they played back in 2004. The hairy chest man contest, or whatever they call it, same as it was. The making the drinks out there and having the competition, same as it was back then. A little more dancing around now, but pretty much all the games out at the pool are the same. And the shows have got a lot better, especially on the Mardi Gras. We were really impressed with the shows. Comedy shows, pretty much the same. That hasn't changed at all. All right, so with some of the shows, the special effects now are a lot better than they were back in 2004. But pretty much all the entertainment, again, is the same. All right, so I promised you one more thing that people have been arguing over for years. And I've seen it online, and people used to say, was there really a top optional deck on the ships? And the answer is yes. And it was always up on the deck that went around the funnel, and that was a top optional deck. And you notice here on the sign that I'm showing you, they only put a camera and a video camera because, again, cell phones back then really didn't have cameras to take pictures, so they didn't say no cell phones, which now most of us use cell phones for all of our video, just about. So yes, there was a top optional deck, and me and two of my friends left our wives downstairs, and we went up there, and then we wish we had not. Okay, so let that be a lesson to you. And then a couple of years later, they kind of did away with that. So, alrighty. I hope this was just a little entertainment video. Getting on the Paradise next Thursday on the 12th of May. And we'll definitely bring you a ship tour. A little bit different than the Elation, as I've told you. And we'll be heading out of Tampa. Been almost 2 years, or actually over 2 years, since we've been on any ship out of Tampa. But we got plenty scheduled for this year. So anyway, thank you for watching. Do me a big favor, please hit that subscribe button down there. Hit that notification bell. And we'll see you next time here on Party of Two Cruising. Have a great day.